Welcome to the Success Pick and Mix podcast. I'm your host, Nicky Raby, a professional pick and mixer. I'm a personal brand coach, a speaker, an actor, a creator, and a podcaster. I'm on a mission to help you find and create your version of success. Your pick and mix of life and business on your terms. A blend that complements your personality, your goals, and your circumstances. Since 2018, I've been sharing interviews and mini episodes to help you unlock your next step, to make it real and make it happen. Round here, we dream big. We go for the ideal version. We talk about money and make moves our future selves would be proud of. This podcast is free and available for you whenever you need it. So do rate, review, and subscribe for new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices and availability, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests. Now, on to today's episode. In today's episode, I'm talking to Ingrid Fernandez, who is a former corporate lawyer who took a step away from her career to have babies and then found it didn't quite fit in the same way when she was ready to go back. Now she works with Deck and Dash Consulting to help small businesses get their legal sorted without the hassle and the stress. This is music to my ears, and she currently lives in London with her husband and her two energetic boys. Today's episode is an interesting one, and you may want to grab a piece of paper and a pen to take some notes, because Ingrid shares some really great tips about GDPR, how you can prepare your business for the next level, and what you need to put into place. So it's a bit of a techie, geeky one today, but I really hope that you find it useful. Here we go. Hi, Ingrid.
Hi Nikki.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. So we've got quite a different sort of slant on the podcast today, because we're going to be learning lots of great things, which is good for me. So if we can just kick off by a little introduction from you about what you do and what you're all about, that would be brilliant.
Yes, absolutely. So I am a legal consultant. I come from a corporate law background in law firms and in-house as well. I'm now consulting with Deck and Dash Consulting, and what we do is we help small businesses just clear away all the legal fog around starting a business. So getting contracts sorted, getting website documents up and running, and especially now in light of GDPR coming in the next few weeks, we just help people understand what they need to do and get themselves ready, get their businesses ready. So that's me.
This is fantastic. Well, I'm from a family of lawyers. I am a non-lawyer, as you can maybe tell. So lots of legal speakers always been around the dinner table. And, I remember being at school and somebody saying, so what does your dad do? And I didn't really understand. So I just said, oh, he goes to court a lot. And I'm sure the teacher was like, okay, interesting. Who is this guy? So I know you worked in corporate before and you sort of moved into setting up by yourself. How has that been for you, and what prompted you to make the decision?
So I was in corporate for the first, I think, 7 or 8 years of my legal career, and it was fantastic. I had some really great opportunities. I was in Australia first, and I've been in the UK for the past 4 years. And it's such a great, I personally found it such a great place to work in, private and also in companies. The issue was for me when I've got 2 little boys. When I had my first one, I wanted to go back to work, but I wasn't really sure what way I wanted to go back to work in. So I didn't want to go back to my old job, and I wasn't really sure where I fit in terms of my legal career. And I think also having my first child, I fell into this pit of a lack of confidence. I had no idea what I was doing. Felt like every day was just a whole new world of challenges. And so I was just quite shaky for those months following his birth. So I really I just ducked and hid, to be honest, for a while, and I didn't really address it too much. And then, lo and behold, my second one came along, so it wasn't immediately a problem. But I think it was after 3 or 4 months after I had my second child when it's almost like I clicked back into myself a little bit more and came out of the newborn fog. And I just wanted to work again. That it was that simple. I just wanted to work again. But I didn't want to work so much that I wouldn't be seeing my children. And I didn't want to be working in a role that was so stressful that I wouldn't be able to be a fun mum, which is really important to me. So that's when the idea came of finding a way to be a lawyer, but be a lawyer flexibly. That's where it started.
Amazing. Yeah, it's I really relate to that sort of shaky start, and just because you feel all of a sudden that what you knew before is not what you know now, and all the questions come out to play, and, you know, throw in a screaming baby and lots of sleep deprivation, it can be really full on. So I would love to talk about and hear more from you of why is it important, and I know this is probably an obvious question, but just to kind of solidify it, why is getting legal support really helpful in your business? And I guess also it's why I wanted to talk to you is because you explain things in such a way that doesn't feel judgy or feel scary. And I think sometimes at school we're, you know, accountants or lawyers, all they're after is your money, and they're going to take you down, and, you know, they're going to make you feel like you have no clue. But that's not your style at all. So how important have you found it in helping other small businesses?
Well, first, thank you. That means a lot, because I want the law to feel accessible to people. I think that's another thing that prompted me to do what I'm doing now, is that I don't want people to feel that the law is too hard or it's too big or it's too scary, because it's not, and it shouldn't be. I know it seems complicated, and definitely there's room for seeing an expert and getting advice, especially around contracts where, you know, you're agreeing to things with other people, or where there's financials involved, or anything that you're committing to. You definitely want to talk to an expert and just make sure, essentially, that you're protecting yourself. And now we do so much business online, and there's a lot less almost face-to-face interaction. And I think there's so much to be said about the gut feel you get from people when you meet them and you can make eye contact. Now, because we're doing so much of that online, that gut feeling is missing. So we can't always rely on instinct with people and the vibe we get from them. So what you need is a really ironclad contract, or you need solid terms and conditions that are there to protect your business. They're another tool that keeps your business safe. That's how I see it. And there are so many ways that you can get free documents and free advice. And I'm not in any way saying you shouldn't do that, because I think the law, again, it shouldn't be so expensive that people can't access it. But at the same time, just the way that you would invest in your business in terms of getting an accountant to do your tax returns, or getting a marketing expert to do your marketing and PR, getting a legal expert on board just means that that's one thing you don't have to worry about.
Yes.
And you can leave to someone else who does it every day. And for them, this is the usual. This is their bread and butter. Whereas for you, it's scary and time consuming and stressful. So it's another way to get things off your list and leave it in the hands of someone who knows it, and often, if they're geeky like me, quite loves it.
That's so interesting what you said about connecting online and doing a lot of online business, because I think it's something that maybe creatives, or maybe it's a female thing. I mean, it pops up all the time, actually, of this thing of like, they seem like a nice person, so let's just see what happens. Or we're not necessarily good about talking about money, or even thinking about the long-term version of things. And this is something that has come up for me as I've been building my business and my brand, is sometimes I've been caught out. And I'll say this very honestly, because I've had to kind of learn the hard way sometimes that sometimes people don't think like me, or they, you know, like sometimes when you see somebody else's kid, or, you know, even when you were a kid yourself and you'd go round to their house and you'd be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're allowed to do that, or, you know, it's a different set of rules. And I had it the other day actually when I did a workshop, and I spoke to a lady afterwards, and she was saying how much she'd enjoyed it, and she said, oh, I'm really looking forward to going and listening back. And I said, oh, what do you mean? And she said, oh, I recorded the whole thing. And I suddenly had that moment of going, oh my goodness, I totally should have said this at the beginning. I should have got some people to sign things. And so it was no fault of her own, I guess. But I also thought I wouldn't assume that you would just record stuff without asking permission. But I was in that sort of sticky situation. So in terms of brands, I would say, how would you recommend that people from a very basic level start to future-proof their business?
I think it's really important to, you know, start simple. I'm always saying you don't need to have everything in place before you start. Start with what you need straight away. And, you know, if you're working online with businesses online, it's really important to have basics like terms and conditions and a privacy policy. They are just your absolute basics. You can just start with that, and that can keep you going for a while. You don't need more than that. If you're going to work with brands, having things like non-disclosure agreements, and again, all these words can sound like they're big and scary and expensive, but they don't at all have to be. They can be a one-page document that just set out what both parties are willing to agree to and what they both agree not to do, and it's that simple. But in any, I guess, with brands or with influencers, or I guess any other business person that you're dealing with, you want to think about, what am I agreeing to? What are they agreeing to? And do we need to put this down in paper? Because like you say, Nikki, people bring their own views, also their own values. You know your values about your business, and you know what's important to you, but you don't necessarily know the values that they're bringing to the table. So they have their own basket of things that are important to them. So in a way, you're both just protecting your own things. It can be that simple.
Yeah. And it's seeing yourself as that kind of serious pro or that expert. And I know when I started my coaching business 6 years ago, I still very much felt like I was playing at it, because let's face it, like when you first start doing something, you have all those insecurities of like, oh, well, I mean, just even pressing publish to send your website going live is so frightening and so scary. And I've really had to learn the hard way of going, oh my goodness, actually people are watching. And it's terrible to say, but I've had my website copied and pasted about 4 times from various different things, which is so bizarre because I actually do lots of different things. So it's really made me click into going, okay, I need to see myself in a different light. And I think sometimes as business owners, we can put off those things because we'll say, oh, we'll do it when we need it. And actually you kind of need to do it now to look after yourself.
That's exactly it. That's the thing. There is so much vulnerability about putting ourselves out there. And this is something we've talked about. And it's from a professional perspective as well as a personal perspective. Obviously, we've all got that imposter syndrome, and we've talked so much about this. And I think that often holds us back from doing things that are very much in our best interest. So we think, well, I'm only playing small, so I don't need to pay a lawyer or an accountant or any other of the experts that I would usually, because this is just a little side hustle, and it's no big deal. No one's paying attention to me anyway. So it's so easy to be dismissive. And I think, and especially, I'm not at all going to jump on a bandbox, but especially for women, we're so used to minimizing what we're doing and playing things down. But what we need to start seeing is what we do has value, and we need to protect that value. It's not necessarily monetary value. It's like you say, people stealing content and people, copying and pasting things. you just want to be able to protect what's yours and what you're creating.
Yeah. And I realize actually more and more so that, you know, you can tell yourself, oh, it's just this little thing like I did in the beginning. But then when you look at it and you go, yeah, but actually it took me 2 hours to write that. Or I had to, even writing your about page, I have to think, gosh, it took a lot of soul searching and a lot of tweaking and brainstorming and playing around with it to get it absolutely right. So yeah, it's fascinating. And I think it works on lots of different levels emotionally, but then also you have to think about your business and what you're putting out there. I would love to talk a bit more about GDPR, because again, it's one of those things that has been the terms that has been bandied around at the moment, and it's almost like that thing, you know, when people go, are you ready for Christmas? Are you ready? Have you bought your turkey? Have you packed your presents? What's going on? I would love to know a bit more kind of around why it's coming in and what it is and what we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, sure. So I think of it a little bit like Y2K, the big Y2K bug. And I was a teenager when that was happening, which shows that I'm in my mid-30s now. But
yeah, that was so bizarre you came up with that. I was thinking about where I was, and I was in some kind of skanky house party and stuff, like sitting on a floor, drinking a can, well, probably more than that, with some Roy. And God, yeah, that's so funny that you've come up with that. I was actually thinking about it the other day. I was not in a glamorous ball gown. I was in, you know, a flat somewhere.
Oh, goodness. Well, you were in a flat. I actually recall quite clearly, I was outside. I was in Sydney in Australia, and we were watching it outdoors, and it was not fit for children and not not the most appropriate place to spend New Year's Eve. But we had a beautiful view of the Harbour Bridge, but that was the thing. We were all talking about, you know, everything was going to shut down. All the computers in the world were gonna fall apart, and everything was going to stop. And we were sitting there actually thinking, wow, so once it hits midnight with this whole Y2K bug, will all the lights in the city go out and the electricity will stop? And there's, you know, they were leading up to Y2K, there was so much scaremongering around. I remember it even now. There was, you know, everything was going to fall apart unless you paid this person, or unless you bought this, or whatever it was. And I think GDPR has picked up a little bit of that hype, in that people are turning it into the end of the world, which it really is not. What it is about is so GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulations, and what the whole intention behind it, and it might not seem it when you're diving into it, but it's really about people protecting and having rights around their own data and what happens to it. So at its base, it's a really positive thing. It's good for all of us. It's good for businesses as well, because it really gives us an opportunity to look at how we're dealing with people's personal information, because we've gotten so used to oversharing now with social media and online that we forget our personal information is ours. It's actually, it's ours to choose to give to people, and we still do have a choice who we give it to, how it's used, what happens to it. I think for a while we almost lost sight of that, the fact that it is ours, and we do have rights that go with it. So I think GDPR, it's in no way perfect, but it's trying to scale a bit of that back and say, look, this is still personal information. It is still a person's.
Yeah. I had it yesterday, actually, with a lady who waxes my eyebrows, and she was saying, I was added to a WhatsApp group, and then she starts saying, like, oh, I'm moving out of London on this day. Please get in touch for all your beauty requirements before I move out. And then suddenly, because I hadn't checked my phone, I was getting all these messages going, can you do a Brazilian on the 24th? And I'm just going, I don't know these people, never mind their nether regions, and I don't need to be part of this. And also I felt a bit annoyed that I was like, why is my phone number in this group? And like, I certainly wouldn't be discussing my waxing needs with these strangers. It was very odd.
and I think a lot of the time we find ourselves in situations, we're getting emails, we don't know where they're coming from. We get, like you say, WhatsApp messages, SMS messages. Like, there is so much, because so much of our information is out there. We've almost gotten to a point where we don't question it too much when these forms of communication pop up. So really what GDPR is about is forcing businesses to be a lot more transparent and be a lot more accountable about what they're going to do with your information once they get it, how long they're going to keep it for, who they give it to, what purposes they give it to other people for. And so you can make an informed decision when you choose to give them that information. You know what's going to happen to it. So when at a really simple level, that's what it comes down to. But for businesses, what they need to start doing, and what we all need to start doing as business owners, is looking at the information we collect from people and what do we do with it? Why are we collecting it in the first place? Who are we giving it to? Are we looking after it properly? Do we have secure means in place to protect it? Things like that. So it's an opportunity, and I know this isn't me being the eternal optimist, but it is an opportunity to sit down and really look at our processes around how we deal with our customers and their information and what we should be doing.
Yeah, that's so good, because it was terrible actually. Before Christmas in October, I had my bank card, like I had 3 fraud incidents on it, like a lot of money, about $3,000, and it was very, very stressful at the time, and it was just awful. It was just really horrible, and it just made me feel really bizarre. But what it did do is go, okay, where do I need to tighten things up? How can I be much more like present? And even those things of like, I need to check my bank account every single day, like that is now a non-negotiable for me, because I need to be aware and know what is going on, and not just go, oh, I haven't checked it for a couple of weeks. I can't have that flippant approach anymore.
Yeah, and I think what you say is exactly right. If we tweak it a little bit, what we need to do is engage with where our information is, who's got it, who's using it for what purpose. And as business owners, we don't want to wait till something goes wrong, especially with data protection. Waiting for something to go wrong and then responding to it is the least ideal way of dealing with it. Essentially, especially with the new regulations coming in, that means there are going to be higher penalties. And again, I'm not trying to create a panic at all, but the whole point of these is to make businesses accountable. So if you're not complying, there are penalties for it. But what it is about is looking at how you need to comply, doing your best to be compliant, and staying on top of it. It can be that simple. It doesn't have to be an overhaul of your business or scrap everything and start from scratch and delete every contact you have. It's nothing that big or scary. It's just about re-engaging with your processes and making sure you're doing your best to do the right thing by your clients and legally.
Yeah. So what would that look like practically in sort of, I guess, 3 steps to acing GDPR? Where would you start?
Okay, so the very first step is to do a data flow audit of your business. Now, that's a really fancy GDPR term. All it means is sit down and write out what information you collect from clients. Where do you store it? Is it on an Excel spreadsheet in your computer? Is it in a set of books that you lock in a filing cabinet? Map all this out, and then if you pass it on to other people, write down who those people are. So if you send it to an analytics company, how do they deal with it? Things like this. So really create a map and think of it quite visually if that works for you. What the data you collect is, where you put it, who gets it, and then also how you get rid of it. If you no longer work with that client, if you don't need it anymore, or if they request it, how you dispose of it. So that's the first step. Do a data audit of your business and really work out what information you have and what needs to happen with it.
Great.
The next step is to have a look at the documents that you need in relation to that information. So if you collect personal information from people through your website, you're going to need a privacy policy on your website. That's really important. If you have employees in your business and you collect information from them, you're going to need an internal policy setting out how you deal with data protection. So working out what you need to have in place in terms of documents, or what documents you already have that might just need tweaking. So you might want to get a lawyer in, you might want to have someone look over them and make sure that you're ticking all the boxes that you need to. And then you also need to have a look at who the data protection person in your business is. So this is the third step. If it's just you, if you're running your own business, then this is another hat that you're going to have to wear. That's the data protection officer hat. And all it means is you're aware of all of this. That's all it means. You just have a handle on data protection in your business. You know what processes are in place. You know what you need to do if something goes wrong. You're that person. So these are the three things I think every business can do. You don't necessarily need to get someone in to do that. Obviously, we can help simplify that process for you, but every business owner can definitely do this on their own.
Brilliant. And so I guess if you say, for example, my mailing list is in MailChimp, is there anything that I need to do within there to make, to clean it up, as it were?
Well, what you need to do, and this is the thing, where whenever our information sits with a third party, we need to make sure, because the onus is on us, we're the one who's collecting the information, we need to make sure that third party is being compliant. So when we're talking about big companies like MailChimp and Gmail and Google, they are making big changes and putting things into place. But at the same time, we have to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
I think MailChimp, if I'm not mistaken, have sent out some information talking about what they're doing to become compliant, where data is being stored and so on. But we also need to take ownership of that and make sure that anyone that we're passing the information to is being compliant. So where they're big companies, all that information should be either getting emailed to you or available on their website. So just go have a little dig around. I can guarantee you places like MailChimp particularly, there's a lot of pressure on MailChimp and Facebook and all the others. So,
can you imagine, we haven't even heard about it. We didn't even know there was something going on.
Well, this is the thing. A lot of people, from based outside of the EU, so in the US, and they're kind of scratching their heads a little bit and wondering what all the fuss in the EU is about. So it's good that it's really important for us as business owners in the EU we've got to drive this. We have responsibilities under this law, so we have to make sure that anyone we deal with, any big US company that we're giving information to, are doing the right thing as well. The onus is definitely on us. Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's so important in actually taking responsibility in all areas of your business. And I'm saying this as a 36-year-old woman. I know it sounds obvious, but I think sometimes it's just ingrained that, that wouldn't affect us, or we don't need to, that thing of it's just a small business or whatever. But in order to scale and take it where we want it to do, and I guess I realized this the other day, that there are some areas in my business that I play really small, or I'm not necessarily preparing for growth, and I really need to, because I really want to go to the next level. And it's about being really deliberate about that and preempting those things that may come up.
Yes, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. There's so many things as a new business owner or a small business owner or both, that there's just so many things to keep on top of. And I'm completely with you. There are things that I just put in a cupboard and I say, not going to worry about that at the moment. I'll deal with that when I'm bigger and it becomes relevant. But in terms of legals and getting them in place early, nothing replaces being legally compliant. Unfortunately, that's not something you can put in a box and ignore. And it really sets you up. If you do it at the beginning, you're not going to have to worry about it unless you do a big change. It's something that can just travel with you. So Yeah, I'm totally with you. Totally understand.
Yeah, it's like having, knowing how, it's like when you do a speaking event or something, like when I do a speaking event, if I know that I've prepared more, that, I've spent loads of time and I really know what I'm going to say and it's kind of ingrained, then I can kind of fly with it. And, then the off the cuff bits come, I can kind of play. Whereas if I feel like I'm on the back foot with something, I've got no wiggle room at all. And it's very, things go down very quickly.
Absolutely. And I think when you're, especially with speaking events, when you're speaking stressed or tense, people totally pick up on that. And it affects any connections that you can make. And then your audience is thinking about, why is this person stressed? They stop listening to you. They're wondering, why are they stressed? Why are they so tense? What's going on? Should I be stressed? Should I be tense? And
it's that gut instinct, isn't it? Sometimes people might just look at your business and go, I'm just not sure. There's something that doesn't quite make sense here. So that's really great advice. And in terms of you and your business, how do you help people one-on-one?
So what I do, I've got a few different packages in place depending on what stage you're at and what your needs. So we do consultations. We can do those in person if you're in central London, or over Zoom or Skype, whatever's easiest, where we can talk through what you need legally. So where you're at, where you want to take your business, what we need to put in place now. We can also create a plan for what you're going to need in the coming 12 to 24 months. So we do those initial consultations. And from there, you've got options. We've got template packages. If you need a set of documents, as an example, let's say you have just set up a website, you want some web documents, we can do your terms and conditions, privacy policy, cookie policy, and we have those ready to go. So you can tell us what you need. We can input the relevant information and get you a 48-hour turnaround. So you'll have your documents ready to publish in 2 days, and that's done for you.
Oh my God. It just feels so dreamy that we were saying about this earlier, I don't kind of do well with vague language, or I'll try, or we'll see, or we'll wait and see what happens. I'm like, is it happening or is it not? So that is such a lovely, confident position to put a business owner.
Yeah, and that's definitely a place that we want to work from. We want you to know what's happening. We don't work in the dark, so we'll keep you updated. We keep everything transparent. It's not a situation where you come to us blind and you leave blind. We just want to make it as easy as possible, quick as possible. And so we can start with the templates. If you have a slightly more, let's say, unique business model, or if you have, what your needs are don't fit the template packages, that's totally fine. We've got bespoke packages. So you might need a little bit from online documents. You might need some internal policies. You might need an employment contract. We can put those together for you. So we can definitely create a package depending on what you need. And then we do training and workshops as well. So this is kind of the fun part, especially around GDPR. If you just want someone to come in and talk to you or your business or your employees about what your responsibilities are under GDPR, what everyone needs to be aware of, what your DPO needs to be doing, whatever it might be, we can come in and do those. And they're a lot of fun. They're not a boring, dry legal lecture at all. We really want to make it practical. That's the thing about the law for business owners. It needs to be practical. It needs to be relevant. So we make it, accessible. It can be a couple of hours. It can be a full day, depending on what you need. And again, you'll come out of that knowing what you need to do going forward and really understanding the legal side. It won't be a scary, complex area of your business anymore.
Amazing. Oh, you just make me feel so confident in the way that you speak, because it's this scaremongering thing. It's just it's terrifying, isn't it? It's just you just want to be on the right side the whole time. I'm such a geek, and I would much rather know than lose sleep over something. In terms of you personally, I've just got one final question for you, which is something I ask quite a lot, is where would you like to be in 5 or 10 years this time. I know you've travelled lots as well. Do you still see yourself being in the UK, or what's the plan, man?
Oh, this is such an interesting question. My husband and I are talking about this almost every week, what we want to do. And you're right, we have travelled quite a bit. We're from Australia originally. We're now in London, and we've been here for about 4 years, and we love it. It's, London is somewhere that I've had 2 babies here. It's always going to have my heart. But gosh, there's so much out there, isn't there? And there's so much we haven't seen. So I think in the next few years, we're looking at a move possibly to the Netherlands for a little while, just to try something else fun and somewhere different. We really want to stay in Europe for a few years just because it is so much fun here. And not to say...
I thought you were going to say because of the GDPR. We just love talking about it. We want to be here. We want to see the changes.
I do love data protection. Probably not that much, but I do love Australia so much. It's the best place on earth. Nothing would ever change my mind about that. But Europe is just so much fun, and we're really enjoying traveling with our little ones. They're at such, especially our oldest, who's 2.5. He's at such a fun age. He's really fascinated by other people, other cultures, other languages, yes, other foods. So yeah, we definitely want to be traveling around Europe a lot more. I'm hoping to kind of, it's a bit of a catchphrase, and I don't at all want to fall into that bucket, but we want to be a little bit nomadic. So we don't want to be locked to one place for the next few years while we can, while the boys are really little. We would love to move around and travel with them, work while we travel with them. And then once we settle down, obviously, get them into school and be grown-ups then. But if we can travel for a bit longer, that is definitely the dream.
God, that's so great. And we talk about the word adventures come up like so much in our house. And I think because Matt, my partner, when he works, often he works really long hours. So there's a lot of hours to fill in the day with a 2.5-year-old, with Oscar and I. And I know for me, I would much prefer to take the slog into central London or go out and about somewhere and go and experience stuff rather than sitting on a cold church hall floor kind of singing nursery rhymes. I feel like I've done all of that now. So I think our kids just really thrive much more so from that kind of vibe.
Oh, I'm totally with you. And I think, we definitely did the singing groups, and they're wonderful in those early months. They're lovely, but we're much the same. If we can get out and about, and my husband's the same when he has daddy adventure days with the boys, and they will just go to some random place in London. And gosh, London is great for that. There is so much fun stuff for the kids to do. And we really get out and explore the museums and random parks. David manages to find so much stuff for them to do. And I think it's really shaping them. They're really outgoing kids. They're really curious about the world. And we just want to foster that for as long as we can, really.
Yeah. And it's lovely that they still want to hang out with us as parents rather than me like, Mum, can you just walk a bit further away from me because you're so embarrassing.
Totally. And that's the thing. I want to maximize this time where I'm the coolest person they know.
Yeah. And you are. You absolutely are. Yes. Yeah. I'm like, keep cuddling me, all of that stuff. I'm enjoying and rinsing every second of it. Yeah. If people want to find out more about you and how you can help, where should they go?
So best place is to check us out on Facebook. So we're facebook.com/ Deck and Dash Consulting. We're also on Instagram, so instagram.com/Deck and Dash, or you can send me an email, ingrid@deckanddash.com. So they're the best ways. We've got some website exciting things happening. They'll be coming in a little while, but we're not there quite yet. So yeah, Facebook is probably the best bet.
Amazing. Brilliant. Do you know what? I know this has been law stuff, but I have loved talking to you, and I just love your approach and the way that you share this information. It's so valuable. So thank you for all the brilliant stuff that you do in the world. I know that I appreciate it, and so many others will as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me on here. I listen to the podcast. I love the podcast. So it's a bit of a thrill to be on here as well.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Well, come on over, anyone who wants to ask any questions. I know Ingrid would like help, or go and check out her Facebook, because there's a great webinar in there about basics of GDPR. So, and I'll try and get this episode up in the next I'll move it forward in terms of the schedule so it's relevant, because there's no point you listening to this in November and going, oh no, I've missed it. It's all over. I don't want you to be writing this from prison or anything. Not that you will go to prison, but you know what I'm saying. Ingrid, thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest, and thanks everyone for listening as well.
Lovely. Thank you, Nikki. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already, feel free to rate, review, and subscribe for all the brand new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices, availability, or just to have a chat with me, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests, and I'll see you next time.